And we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Life Action Roleplay with
Cynthia Marie
and Omega. And for today's topic, we're going to be covering Bob's Burgers Zero LARP 30. So we're going to be covering a LARP episode that exists in mainstream TV. And before we start, let's do some shout-outs. So, Sin, who do you have a shout-out for?
Shout out to By Night Studios, who is developing the Changeling the Dreaming book. And so they asked about who's your favorite kith, and I'm so excited because this is, I know, been years in the making, and I've been asking for it since I've known the team, and it's finally coming out, and hopefully I'll be able to LARP as my issue. So excited.
Nice. My shout out is for the game Twin Mask, because the last game that I played is what I consider the Game of Thrones episode that I've always wanted in a LARP. And there was so much political intrigue that had to happen at court, and the end result was now I am the Archduke of Solace, so I'm the default ruler of that LARP. It's kind of surreal to say that I'm the ruler of that LARP because I've been playing for nearly 20 years, and I've never been the ruler, or not even a prince, of a vampire LARP. So this is the first time.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yay for that. So, now, to transition from Game of Thrones, going into Bob's Burgers, Sin has never actually seen Bob's Burgers, and this is one of my favorite animated shows of all time.
Yay.
You don't sound so excited.
No, I mean, it's smart in the way it was written. I appreciate the writing style. I don't appreciate the animation. I'm sorry. No.
That's okay.
I can't do it.
That's okay. When I first saw Bob's Burgers, I wasn't a huge fan of the animation style either, so I kind of skipped a lot of it. I didn't even bother watching it, and it was only because I know that the same voice actor that did Archer in the series Archer actually did Bob's Burgers, and they had a reference to that in Archer. Then I started to watch Bob's Burgers on a fluke and realized that I love this type of comedy. I think they're brilliant.
I just can't get behind it. I just can't do it.
But you're also such a visual person, so I get it.
Yeah.
But the humor is smart, and I love the fact that there's now mainstream shows that address LARP.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's surreal. I can't even think of a scenario 10 years ago, except for the movie Role Models, where they address LARP.
Yeah. And
now we have a culture that knows what live action role playing is, and they reference this on television regularly. I've seen it on the Disney Channel, I've seen it in Bob's Burgers, I've seen it on
movies. Knights of Badassdom.
Knights of Badassdom is all about a LARP. It's now all over the place. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of surreal that...
It's all over the place, but I've also noticed that when I say that I'm going to a LARP, working where I work, a lot of people are still, what is that? So I still have to kind of explain what it is, which is funny. Mm-hmm. But episode for Bob's Big Boy. Big Boy? No, that's a restaurant.
Bob's Burgers.
Yes.
Bob's Burgers. You are forgiven. I love Bob's Big Boy.
Oh, good. It's in Burbank. It's great.
Yeah, it's
my
great.
First date with my boyfriend. Anyhow, back to the episode. Do you want to describe what the episode was about in case people have not seen it? Which
all right.
I guess you should.
Yeah, so we're going to summarize a little bit of this. So the episode takes place with Linda, one of the main characters, the wife of Bob, who wins tickets to go to a Winthrop Manor LARP. So think of Winthrop Manor as Downton Abbey. So there's going to be a Downton Abbey LARP that she gets to go to, and she's really excited. She brings her husband Bob to go along, and they arrive at the actual place where Winthrop Manor is filmed. So if this actually happened to me, I would be completely excited. I know there's something similar with a Hogwarts
LARP.
My
God, yes.
So, basically the same idea. If we were able to go to a Hogwarts LARP, this will be the same experience, except
Right.
it's Downton Abbey.
Right.
The big twist is that when she arrives, there are upstairs characters and downstairs characters, and she's expecting she would live a life of glamour, but instead she gets a downstairs character, wah wah, and becomes a servant.
Much like her regular life, which is what she's pretty darn disappointed in.
Right. I wrote down some things because we were watching this episode just before recording this podcast, so I always record reactions. You know, to be fair, we've never actually covered an episode
Right.
on this podcast before, so forgive us. I'm actually kind of taking a lot of cues from our friends at Love and Justice whenever they record Sailor Moon podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they covered those episodes. So
let's start from the top then. So
Yes.
my favorite moment actually was in the very beginning of the episode when
Linda
and her husband is Bob. They're both driving to the event and they're playing the theme song of the show over and over again. And what I freaking love is when I'm getting ready to like dress up as Princess Jasmine. Mainly when I'm getting ready to dress up as Princess Jasmine, I have a Princess Jasmine playlist that literally like has all of the remixes to Aladdin's music and like any kind of like belly dance music. So like I am totally on par with this character with playing the music over and over again to get into the character of stuff.
And for those who don't know, Sin is a Princess Jasmine cosplayer, so if you might have like missed a little bit of the memo that like between LARP, she also does a lot of cosplay.
Yay!
So she also has that mentality, I'm going to play music
Yes.
to get into character.
Yes.
I don't usually have character music whenever I go up. I'm just focused on the drive. But do you know Vanessa May, who's like a famous violinist?
Mm-mm.
So she mixes violin playing with not hip hop, but like electronica.
Nice.
And so like my favorite songs of hers is something called Storm, based off Vivaldi's Storm, but then set to electronica dance music.
Nice.
So it is like my favorite thing whenever I play a noble.
Yes.
Because it has beautiful classical violin, that's all the nobility,
Right.
and then at the same time it has hard-hitting beats,
Right.
so it makes me want to kick ass.
Fair. I mean, I have my stuff for my vampire nobles as well. I have different playlists. But anyway, nonetheless, totally relate to that moment of, yes, music driving up. But I will say, as a whole, if I were a character in this episode, I would not want to go to that LARP.
I will reveal, like, we're going to talk a little
Right,
bit more about the episode.
we're going to go in depth of this.
Yeah, we're going to go in depth. Okay, so they're all randomly picking their characters for this LARP, which is odd because normally we would never...
Yeah.
You would never do this. You would want to be dressed in a certain way
Right.
so that you mentally prepare. Here, there's no mental preparation. They just kind of show up and they pick from envelopes which of our characters they're going to get. So it's going to be, surprise, you are either one of the upstairs people, or surprise, you're not one of the upstairs people, and you're one of the servants.
Right.
So Linda grabs a character, and she becomes Iris, the servant to Mrs. Winthorpe, which is a notable character in the show, but she's basically treated like a little bitch.
Yeah, pretty much. And her husband, who completely detests the whole idea, gets fitted with Footman Oliver.
Yes. And so they're both downstairs characters, but in the middle of one of their dinners, Footman Oliver, says something smart, and the rest of the upstairs characters are like, oh, so do you have an opinion?
Right.
And he says, well, if you're in a place so grand, you should be paying your servants more. So instead of them hating what he said, Mr. Winthorpe says, I like your moxie. You should join us for cognac and cigars.
Yeah, which ironically is what I'm drinking right now.
What cognac are you drinking today? We forgot to do the what are we drinking today?
Yeah.
Oh, let's go and do it now.
I forgot what it's called. It's okay. I don't know. It's the one that Rihanna drinks. I don't know. It's fancy.
Rihanna's fancy
cognac. Yay.
And I'm drinking this Starbucks cold brew coffee in a glass bottle, cocoa and honey flavored. There
Cheers.
You go. Cheers.
So back to that moment. What was interesting to me is the character who's playing Mr. Winthorpe is the veteran LARPer, and he went with the yes and sort of approach with the Oliver character, and instead of like shutting him down and treating him like servant, like he went with it and opened up a different experience, which I think was really cool considering that he was the most veteran person there. You would think that he would have been like the one to like stop things happening. So,
I didn't
as opposed to the moderator who was very much like, no, you must be servant, no, you must be high class, like this is how it's supposed to be. The guy who was the most veteran one took it upon himself to basically break the rule and have Oliver or Bob come and join the LARP to kind of change it.
I actually didn't notice that.
No.
So that's really, really cool. Like, I just kind of... Because with the veteran LARPer, he... like, one of the references that he mentioned is that he did the Star Wars LARP, he did the Tolkien LARP, he did the World According to Garp LARP. Just as a side note, like, when we were trying to come up with this show, I tried to come up with World According to LARP, and Sin rejected that. I'm glad she did. Because then I had to be especially creative with naming the show, and then just live-action roleplay became a thing, and so far everyone seems to love that name.
Because it's brilliant. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. But, yeah, with the veteran LARPer, the key thing was that he's done all these LARPs, but it didn't sound like he had a whole lot of experience with Winthrop Manor, or the equivalent of Downton Abbey, because he had a lot of questions about it, but he's just used to being a LARPer.
Right.
So, yeah, I didn't realize that he was doing the yes and with Bob. And
at least that's what I got from it. I could be totally wrong, but
I thought that was actually a cool observation. I didn't get that at all. Because then the next scene, Bob said, "I love being a rich person!"
Right. So then you automatically take this person who's never even done it, who completely detests this whole thing, and it completely widened their experience. Whereas the person who was looking forward to it most, who was paired off with, I don't think she was an experienced LARPer.
Susan, who became Mrs. Winthrop.
Yeah, just basically ruined this other person's experience.
Yeah, I think with Susan's character, like, she was playing Mrs. Winthrop, so she automatically, as one of the main characters, she was going to act in the way of being Mrs. Winthrop, whereas she's going to be demanding, she's going to be entitled, and for her, this is her dream fantasy come true, which, some characters get to do in a LARP. You get to play your dream character. Not always. Like, in most LARPs, there are often challenges, but in this case, she got to live out her dream. As opposed to Linda, who got a character who was pretty much shat upon.
Yeah.
Okay, let me rephrase that. Who was pretty much spit upon. I don't know if I...
Shat? Come on.
Yes,
Well, you're going to use the word shat.
Okay, fine.
You're going for it.
She was shat upon.
Upon?
Because it is a proper term.
It is a proper term.
We have never quite used this term before. I don't know why I'm speaking this way.
Because you're being proper.
Because I'm being proper.
Well done, sir. Well done.
Thank you.
Cheerio, chip, cheerio.
Chipio, yeah, chip. I'm not even the one drinking wine right now.
You're not.
No, I'm not. So Bob gets this wonderful experience being Footman Oliver, returns to a shabby bedroom because it's the servants' quarters, and Linda is dead tired. Yeah. She's looking forward to the walk in the tulip garden, which comes from the show, so she's looking forward to that experience. And as she's trying to get sleep, ring, 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 ring.
Mother flubber.
Yes, it's Mrs. Winthrop who rings a bell because she wants her bed wine.
She wanted a pillow first.
She wanted a pillow first, yes. Yeah. And then, ring, 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 ring.
And then she wants a bed wine.
And then, ring, 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 ring.
And then another bed wine. Oh, wait, no, a gin. Oh, wait, no, how about both?
Yes. And then she decides, I'm going to get you all the things.
Yeah.
So you don't have to ring me anymore.
So if I was Linda / Iris, as I was giving all of those things, I would have taken the bell with me.
But Linda didn't think that way.
No.
After her service, Mrs. Winthrop was done, allowed her to sleep, and then they find out the next morning when they're about to go to the tulip garden that she's been replaced. Dun, dun, dun! She has no idea that she was fired, but it turns out that she was fired and replaced by another LARPer.
and then couldn't go on the tulip walk, and her husband ends up going without her, and then totally rubs it in her face.
I guess not intentionally, but it kind of hurts.
No, he totally did intentionally.
Did he?
Yeah.
I just kind of thought, like, he's a little clueless about that. He's...
Okay.
In my head, Bob's a little clueless.
Okay.
So I interpret that as he was so excited, but still, like, when he comes back and goes, you know, the tulips are bloom, or it's the pre-bloom of the tulips.
Yeah, which is even better than they were in bloom.
Yeah. But then Linda does something amazing when she's, like, cutting off the wicks.
Yes, of the candlesticks.
Yes. She stages a revolt.
You know, I'm surprised that it didn't turn into a Clue, being in that manner with the candlestick and all the things. Like, no Clue references. No,
Yeah, there was like a little Clue reference, and it was like they could have gone there.
They should have just turned into a murder mystery LARP.
I wonder if that was even a possibility, because with the way comedy team writers, you know, write, they write a whole bunch of stuff.
Right.
But yeah, like having the candlesticks there, having like they were in a manner like that. The tile of that kitchen was checkerboard. Yeah, they could have totally done it, and they just didn't.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So revolt,
and they decide to stage their uprising by eating their dinner. The
7 courses of food.
Yes.
Which preface? Okay, well, beforehand,
right.
The servants actually were served the exact same food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which was like some sort of like slop.
Yeah, like some stew.
Yeah.
And all the LARPers are kind of excited. It's like, this is authentic. This is what they would have. This is what they would have ate as servants at 1901. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't pay for that.
Yeah, no.
And so when Bob comes back from his tulip experience, they reveal to him that they're going to stage an uprising, and if we can count him in. And he says, well, I have this clay shooting thing tomorrow where they're outside of the manor, and they realize they had the perfect opportunity. Only after he does the clay shooting thing.
Right, because he wanted to do it very badly.
Right. So, yeah, Bob is getting, like, a lot of the advantages of being the servant. Like, there was even a point when I'm watching, it's like, no, you could potentially betray them because you really, really liked what you're doing.
Yes. Right
now. And when the first time I watched this episode, I kind of thought that's where it was going to go. But it turns out he didn't, because he's loyal. Yeah. And so he shoots the clay pigeons, and in the middle of shooting the clay pigeons, he takes the cranker, the crank of the car, kind of like does the syphilis cough.
Oh, yeah. Side note, it just dawned on me. The woman who's playing Lady Winthrop, she is an experienced LARPer, because she makes the comment of, Linda asks, where's her +1? And she goes, oh, we play in separate LARPs. Yeah. Which I thought was brilliant, too. It was like, oh, wow, okay, that's pretty awesome. So side note, she is actually an experienced LARPer. Yeah.
Do you know of people that play separate LARPs?
From their partners?
Yeah.
Yes. Me? Is that weird?
That's not weird. Like, your partner doesn't play the LARP at all.
Right, so to be fair, I just introduced my boyfriend to tabletop RPG, and he's asked me if he wanted to do, if I would let him. Okay, for lack of a better term, let him LARP with me, and I'm still kind of struggling with do I want to enter that world? How do we enter that world? That's a whole other discussion to have, but yeah, it's been interesting. So as of right now, we are sort of separate, because he does play RPG with me.
Oh, I see, okay.
But we don't do live action role playing together.
Got it. Okay, I get that. Yeah, like I do know of people who do play separate LARPs. It's very, like, I guess partnerships that play separate LARPs. It's very weird. The only time that I could see that happening is if one of the partners was actually running that LARP, and so the partner didn't want to get all of the advantages of getting that LARP. So I've totally seen that happen.
Right. I mean, I've seen a lot of different versions of it, but I think if you guys want us to do an episode strictly on LARP couples and what we think of it, let us know.
Like Love and LARP?
Love and LARP.
That is a whole episode
In itself.
I have mentioned before, like, a little bit of me dating in LARP. It's kind of surreal, because, like, as a gay guy, like, there are actually more than a few opportunities to do that, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very surprisingly.
Very surprisingly, but, like, there's also,
so,
like...
because you don't really know, like, if you're brand new to LARP, if you don't know people, like, you don't really know which way they swing, or, like, who they truly are, because you're all playing a different character, like... It'd be interesting to play a lesbian character, you know? People wouldn't know that of me or would expect that of me. I don't... Yeah. Anyway, we should do a whole Love and LARP episode.
Okay, like that. We will footnote that. Yeah, that's totally going to be a thing, because it's such an easy thing to talk about. Okay, so anyways, getting back to the servant uprising.
Yes.
So Bob steals the crank of the car, does a syphilis cough, passes that to the other servants. I love that, the syphilis cough.
Syphilis cough.
Because it's so time appropriate.
Yes.
And then they notice, hey, Footman Oliver, so what's going on over there? Why is Iris in that car? Like, they should not be in automobiles.
In the auto?
And Footman Oliver goes, let me see what's going on over there. So he checks over, and then he starts running and gets into the car, and they drive off, and you see all of these upstairs characters kind of run after the car.
And it's very, very gloomy outside, and it's starting to rain.
Yeah, so it was kind of an awesome thing, just watching them get away.
Yeah.
I did see you stick up your middle finger.
I was hoping you didn't see that.
No, it was kind of appropriate.
Yeah, that was me driving the car. I'd be like, fuckers, yeah!
To be fair, if you are watching this episode, you would feel exactly the same way. It's like, come on. Like, the way Linda has been treated, like, this was her redemption.
Yes.
And then when they get back to the manor, they start eating 6 of the 7 courses of dinner.
So one of the thoughts that went through my mind during them eating is the people who are serving the dinner, for one, are sitting down eating the dinner. So how did the dinner get served?
So the way it was explained is that the servants are the ones making the dinner. Because that was part of their authentic experience.
Right, but if they were all staging this uprise, who the hell cooked?
I guess technically it would be them. Because, like, in earlier part of the episode, they were supposed to be making, like, that dessert and making all of that food. And, you know, kudos to them. If you can make all of that, that's great.
Right. I would have burnt that.
I
can't cook. I'm screwed.
I can cook a little bit, but I imagine that compared to slop all weekend, whatever you have made is going to taste like a gourmet.
Fair point.
So, although, you know, the way they made that 7-layer cake, very impressive.
And it was flambéed.
And it was flambé, so like Wolfgang Puck quality type of 7-layer cake that they set on fire. Of course, by the time to get to their 7th course, that's when all of the upstairs characters manage to break in.
Yep.
And Linda's like, no, you're not getting this. Or actually, at first, she says, then why don't we share this as equals?
Right, she tried. She tried real hard, but that mean lady, what was her name?
Mrs. Winthorpe.
Yeah, wouldn't have anything to do with it. So.
Yeah, she says, no, we deserve this. And I'm like, uh-oh, this is where the entitlement comes in.
Yep.
And then they go over to the library, which is a place that's supposed to be forbidden.
Yep.
So, yeah, one of the things that they also lay out is that there are certain places in this manor which are off limits. And, of course, one of the biggest ones is the library.
Yeah.
So they bring that cake to the library, they lock the door, and Linda decides to tease them by eating the top.
Yes.
Of the flaming cake.
Yes.
It's like, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, and in true character fashion, Mrs. Winthrop grabs a statue and in very slow-mo throws it into the glass door.
And then they start all devouring the cake like zombies going after brains.
Yeah, dude, I was definitely thinking I was watching a scene out of The Walking Dead there.
It was totally a scene out of The Walking Dead, but with cake.
Right.
At which point the moderator and organizer, like, kicks them all out because they just broke the door to library.
Yes, and then the most awkward drive in the slowest auto ever back to the gate.
Yeah. That was a fun LARP, right?
No. No.
And then pretty much where it ends, except for the button where Linda starts to watch Winthorpe Manor. Who else wants to see it? Bob says, yeah. And then they start singing the theme of Winthorpe Manor.
Yes. So I'd have to say out of the entire episode, the character that I related to most was Bob. Because Bob makes all the side eye and the side comments when, like, I hate to say it like this, when everybody's nerding out about LARP, he's the only one sitting back there being like, oh, God. What have I got myself into? And every time I enter a LARP, while I'm trying to get into character, sometimes I sit by myself and I look around and I'm like, what am I doing here? What did I just get myself into? All right, I'm just going to go with this. See what happens.
So you're telling me you would play Footman Oliver?
Totally.
Well,
Totally play Footman Oliver.
Well, Footman Oliver, even though he was in the downstairs group,
he got treated well.
He got treated well. Well, because he voiced his opinion.
Right, which I would totally do the same thing.
Well, that's fair. Like, I guess with certain characters, if you show enough moxie, you can hang with the popular people.
Right. Although I probably wouldn't be wanting to hang with the popular people. I'd be one of the popular people.
But that also happens in LARP in real life too. Like, if your character is supposed to be the downtrodden whatever, but if he or she is really outspoken or has a magnetic personality, you're gonna pretty much rise through that LARP.
Right.
Regardless.
Right. Unless you're in a LARP full of powerhouse type people, which happened to me in the New Orleans LARP that I did. It was just a powerhouse full of the bee's knees of all LARPers in there, so it was really hard to one up each other or be more outspoken than the other one. It was a tough LARP.
But isn't there a little bit of an equalization that happens when you have a lot of powerful characters together?
Yes and no. You start trying to find your alliances. That's definitely true. So, but if you're antisocial like me, sometimes it's hard to find your alliances.
Okay, to be fair, you and antisocial usually don't go into the same sentence.
Yeah, my characters tend to be antisocial. That's a whole other topic of power of intimidation.
But I imagine you wouldn't necessarily play in a LARP like that where there's clear upstairs and a clear downstairs.
Nah.
Well, because I guess you also have your alliances already formed out, so where else would you go?
Right.
I know that in a couple of games, I actually have played a couple of games that are similar to this. One of them is the Dark Ages LARP. So based off of Vampire the Masquerade. So a long time ago there was a, I guess it wouldn't be Mind's Eye Theater, but it's kind of written that way, called Faith and Fire. Mm-hmm. Probably one of the best written versions of Mind's Eye Theater that I've seen. I don't know if it is a Mind's Eye Theater, but the mechanics and the explanations of the histories were very, very well done. And I've always wanted to play in that LARP, and I managed to play that LARP in, of all places, Champaign-Urbana in Illinois, because I was visiting friends in the Midwest on business. And it was weird, because when I was playing that LARP, and it was an independent troupe, there was the difference between the high clans and the low clans. Mm-hmm. And I happened to be playing as La Sombra, which is obviously high clan.
Right.
And I didn't realize that there was such a disparity between the high clans and the low clans. So when because I was playing a priest, it made sense that I would talk to people about sin and, well, not you. I mean, but I would talk to people about morality and what it is to be a vampire and all of that. And that meant talking with a lot of the Malkavians and Nosferatu, because there were many people in Faith and Fire, where religion does play a large part of that LARP. And even in the writing down of that LARP, it was a huge thing. And when we were doing shoutouts, it was kind of surreal that there were a lot of shoutouts for me playing a character that would hang with the low clans. In my head, it was more of I'm talking about morality with other characters. Yeah. And so with the other LARP, there was a game of elders that I was playing with. The interesting thing about elders is that you would think that you're using a lot of your powers to kill other players, and it turns out when everybody is that powerful, you generally don't want to kill each other because it takes too long. And so the end result is that you kind of all go Cold War on each other. You manipulate servants and you manipulate people to go against each other like that. So that's the interesting. I always have wanted to play another Elder game because it forces you to not try to kill each other. Kind of like you kind of play the city power game, and you try to take certain resources from each other. But
Right on.
yeah.
So, recommend watching Bob's Burger. That episode is pretty awesome. And honestly, I think I'm going to watch Downton Abbey instead of Bob's Burger.
Yeah, neither of us have watched Downton Abbey, so I guess we understand enough of Downton Abbey. It's like,
Right.
okay, it's an upstairs downstairs scenario, but I've never actually watched it.
Right. So kudos to Bob's Burgers for making us go watch Downton Abbey now.
Yeah, so now we're gonna have to watch Downton Abbey, see if that even can be a LARP. I imagine someone can write a LARP out of that.
Yeah, I want someone to write a LARP for Harry Potter in the States, because I definitely want to do that.
Like the Ilvermorny school?
No, I want to be in Ravenclaw, damn it.
But we can do that by going to Universal.
We can. Why don't we write you should write a LARP, so we can all go to Universal and LARP at Universal.
Okay, so that'll be a challenge. No, it's not that I won't accept a challenge. It's like what would I write about, or what would we LARP about?
I don't know. We'll have to take that off air.
Okay. Well, we could also take it off bear.
Off bear.
Off bear. We can take that off bear. My brain being what it is. I did a lot of things today.
Yes, you did. You were very busy.
Yes, but hey, if people have ideas on how to write a Harry Potter LARP,
let us know.
Let us know in comments and in feedback. We're always looking for feedback and other contributions for things that we can talk about, but like the love episode. Episode.
The love and LARP.
Love and LARP. So we're going to have to eventually cover that.
So real quick before we wrap it up, is there any particular LARP that you are looking forward to going to anytime soon?
So right now, in a few days, I will be traveling up to San Francisco Bay Area to hang with my sister, Tina, and hang with my family, and also to go to KublaCon, which is held on Memorial Day weekend. And that's actually one of the bigger places where they do LARP. So I'm looking forward to doing that, playing my Kuei-jin.
Right on.
He will be meeting other Kuei-jin for the first time. So this is actually going to be really exciting. I'm going to be meeting other Kuei-jin PCs in that area. So I'm totally looking forward to playing that diplomacy.
Sweet.
Yes.
So we'll be getting an episode of Omega all alone in San Francisco covering KublaCon.
Yes, and if I guess I'm going to figure out who I can get from there, probably some old-time players or maybe new players, but we'll see on a special edition that will be covered later this week.
Yay.
Anything else?
That's about it. We'll probably shoot back to my Pachuca character probably in the next couple of episodes, because that LARP is also coming up in the next, I think, 2 weeks or something.
Nice.
So when we get closer to that, I'll give a bigger shout out to it.
Okay, great. I'm totally looking forward to that Pachuca character. It just sounds so cool, like especially after seeing those videos. Yes. All right. So thank you for joining us. This is Omega
and Cynthia Marie.
And see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.